Hey gang, Mr. Terrell here with the Pike County Extension Office. We just needed to go through and update you with some new changes at County Fair and just some reminders about how to run your poultry chain project. We hope that we have lots of folks participate again. I think it's a really good project, especially if you're starting out or if you just really like chickens. So we'll go through pretty quick and hopefully get this done. I know you've got other things to do. So here's some rules. Participants do pay for their own chicks. We started that last year, and I think that worked really well for us. It helped us at the office not have to uh, take a chance on paying for some chicks that never came back because of unforeseen circumstances. I know it happens. So the participants do pay for their own chicks. It's $25 per flock. You can only have one flock per member. You'll get somewhere in the range of about 18 to 20 chicks. You can order roosters, and roosters are extra, so make sure that you let us know if you come to the office to order and that you want a rooster or two to go with that, okay? Order deadline is March the 2nd, 2020, so we need to make sure that you come by to the office and pay us the $25 before then. Miss Gay will sign you up in the new form stack form that Miss Charity has made. Tentatively, the delivery date is April the 16th. We typically make a delivery to Glenwood Kirby area and then bring everything else back to the office. Last year we did the Kirby Ag Department building, and then we brought the rest of them here. Probably same thing this year, just depending on where the birds will be located. You bring 4 of those pullets to the Pike County Poultry Chain show, okay? And so make sure that you know the number. It is 4, and that you will bring those. If you wish to sell your birds while they're there, all that profit goes back to you. We suggest about $10 a bird. In the past, we did blue ribbon was 12, red ribbon was 11, and white ribbon was 10. But we really do need to make them pretty comparable so that everybody's selling them at the same price. So just kind of keep that in mind. We suggest $10 a bird. If you want to sell them after the fair on your own for more, have at it. You're welcome to do so. We will have some contacts if you need some people to sell to that always buy them up. We always have more buyers than we have birds. So if you need some contacts, we'll definitely help you up there, okay? So this year is a one-day show, and your birds will be dismissed at the end of the show. So if you do sell, you need to make sure that you have a buyer lined up for that afternoon to come and get your birds. So some changes is that it is a one-day show, okay? The birds will not be at the fairgrounds all week long. It will be a one-day show on Saturday, September the 19th. At 8 o'clock in the morning, we'll start with the NP-IP testing that you always do. And then somewhere around probably 10 o'clock or so, we'll start the show. The plan is to have the rabbit show start at 8 o'clock that morning, and then chickens will be doing NP-IP testing. When the rabbits get done, we plan on all the birds having done with their test and ready to show. So that's why I say somewhere around the 10 o'clock range, I would be ready for a poultry chain show to start. Okay, this is all poultry, not just poultry chain, but we will start with the poultry chain and then we'll go to the other birds after the poultry chain show is over with. Okay, you will be dismissed at the end of the show, and they must leave that day. Okay, anything that is remaining will be removed, and you will not get them back. So make sure that you take your birds back at the end of the show. A few reasons for this. I know there's a lot of questions on why. Probably the biggest reason is just for biosecurity. We have been told for years that this poultry chain show is on thin ice, and that any outbreak of disease will be done with. And so we're just trying to do our part to eliminate that possibility, and hopefully we will do a good job of containing disease and what have you. We've also had a lot of problems with being able to get enough ventilation in that barn. we really need to make sure that everybody takes Germ-X in and out of that barn with visitors. You know that they get things on their feet, that they travel to other places. So it is just a little bit of risky business for Pike County. Our economy runs on poultry and pine trees. And so if either one of those things goes down, we're in big trouble. What to expect with your Poultry Chain program? Well, one, you'll receive up to 25 female chicks, but typically it's not that high. Somewhere around 18 to 20 is kind of the goal that Miss Charity orders birds for. You get one set, and you'll raise them for approximately 20 weeks. We're one of the last fairs, so add another 4 or 5 weeks to that probably. Your birds will be laying, and so this year Miss Charity is doing is training for the judges, so that they know that this is probably not a pullet chain really anymore, that these birds are probably laying. The variety that we use also lays a little bit early, so they will know that your birds are already laying, and that changes judging a little bit. So you'll select 4 birds, okay? I want to make that clear. You will bring 4 birds to the fair on September the 19th. And you're going to be evaluated as a result of your management and husbandry, okay? We'll talk about selecting birds in a minute, but you want something, 4 birds that are very uniform. And you may have a better bird that you left out, but uniformity is critical here. So what will you gain from this project? You gain a lot of life skills and things that you'll help you later in life, a lot of goal setting skills. So there's a lot of things that you'll learn from this. With all the biosecurity measures that take place, you understand, I think, a little bit more of how much is involved in agriculture, making sure we're a sustainable industry. And of course, it always helps you to learn responsibility, and I think that's what parents like the most about this project. So how to be successful? Number one, you just have to make their environment suitable for growth and development. They need to be at their optimum range. You're not at your optimum range if you're hot or you're cold. If you're in a classroom that the teacher cranks down the air conditioner, you don't learn very well. The same with these birds. They've got to be comfortable to get up and eat and drink and be able to grow. Feed a diet which supplies all the birds' nutrients. So you should have a complete diet if you're buying a bag form of high protein chick feeder. So that probably won't be a huge problem, but make sure that they always have feed, okay? Select birds with best potential to win. So when you're choosing them out, think about that. You may have some culls at the get-go. You may have one that just isn't growing like it should be, or they wind up having a deformed toe or a beak or something like that. That's a good time to just go ahead and cull them out at the beginning. If you keep them to the end, you've lessened somebody else's potential, okay? And it's going to cost you feed and such as you go along. So as you go along, if you see a cull because of a deformity, then go ahead and take them out of the flock. Select birds with the best potential to win, and then keep your records for future use, such as your record book at the end of the year. Be prepared. There's just a little diagram in here of what could happen, but have everything ready for them, okay? Baby birds need to go to about 100-degree environment. They like that. And then every week I would step down just a couple of degrees until you finally get to that about 70-degree range, okay, is what our goal is. You're probably in summer and that might not happen, but as baby birds, you really want to keep them warm, okay? Make sure that you have a heat source. Even if it's a warm day, they're probably still going to need a heat source for the first couple of weeks, okay? Have some litter or some shavings ready for them, or a wire bottom cage that everything can fall through and you can clean out easily. Baby birds are not the cleanest things. They're going to have a mess, and you need to be prepared for a mess, okay? And then have some feeders and waterers. Have some waterers that they're not going to be able to get in and drown, okay? They can only drink out of them. They don't need a bowl. where they can get in. You have some tragedies if that happens. And a feeder to make sure that it's a self feeder. I wouldn't just leave food in a bowl or something. Be prepared with an automatic feeder of some sort, probably a gravity fed. And we'll talk about all these things as we go through. So just remember this about a brooder. You're probably going to have a heat lamp as your best source, probably. Don't use anything that's flammable or whatever. I would definitely say heat source should probably be a heat lamp. They need to be in a container, and make sure that that container is safe from all pets and such when you get them. And as soon as they get in that container, when you get them home, they really need food and water. Now, I suggest that you give water before food and allow the water to go in and expand the stomach. And then they have a greater capacity for food after that. But either way, just make sure that it's there and that it does not run out. Here's some other brooder ideas. If you have a cat or a dog around, the one over in the left-hand corner will probably be your best bet. Have something on top of that container so that those animals don't get in there. If that's not a problem, then you shouldn't have a big issue. But just remember to keep the family pets away from the birds. So this is to start out at 90 to 92. I really believe you can go higher. In commercial production, we go higher. But they definitely need to be warm. And then every week you go down to about 5 degrees till you hit that about 70-degree range, okay? This picture demonstrates what you want. So the yellow birds are the birds that you want. You want them to be evenly spaced out, okay? The red birds there are too hot, and they're trying to go to the edge to cool down. The birds in number 5 in the left-hand corner, they're all crowded together. They're cold, and we don't want cold. They'll stack on top of each other and suffocate each other. We don't want cold. And the other side just shows that there's probably a draft, okay? So they're trying to get away from some kind of wind or something like that. So we want evenly spaced. We want them happy. We want them running around and playing, drinking, and eating. So that is the goal. So here we have water sources. Again, make sure that your water source never runs out. That is the worst thing. Number one rule for any animal production is that if an animal doesn't have water, then it doesn't eat food. And if it doesn't eat food, it doesn't gain weight. So the running out of water is detrimental to your progress. Never run out of water. It is an essential nutrient, and many times it's the forgotten nutrient. And we want something that is free of debris, something that is always clean, and take away the possibility of bacteria and disease building up. So I would suggest that it's something that is contained. All three of these are very good options. The nipple drinkers are a little bit better option because you don't have to worry about litter and poop and things like that getting in their water, such as you do on the one on the left-hand side. But whatever it is, just make sure that it's always full, okay? Try to minimize food waste. Birds, by instinct, like to scratch and throw things everywhere. So I would really look for a feeder that would help to put that in minimum waste, okay? So just a big open bowl. They're going to get in it. They're going to defecate in it. They're going to scratch it out. You're going to have some problems with that. So try to find something that is contained. So here you have lots of options that you could use. We've got a lot of good feed stores in the area that carry these things. So again, be prepared before the birds ever show up. Your site needs to be ready, but these are some options for you, okay? So we have some talk on what do I start with. So just make sure that their food is a high protein, okay? And you're pretty going to use that same food throughout. If you ever do change, remember to change gradually, not just all of a sudden. But for these birds, from the day you get them to the day that you take them to fair, you should be able to use a high protein source feed. Okay. So just remember that if you find that it's too hot, then we can change it out a little bit. But we're looking for high protein at the beginning for sure. Ms. Charity adds a few things on this slide that you want to talk about. That it talks about that providing access to oyster shells is beneficial for quality egg production. So again, remember that you will probably be producing eggs by the time that fair comes along. So you may need to up their calcium, which is what oyster shells does, okay? Especially if you see a problem with the eggshell, you might need to add a little bit of extra calcium. And again, always have good, clean water. Fowl pox is a disease that we see commonly. And these are just some pictures of the progression of fowl pox. Number one, I would remove these birds and don't keep them on the farm. It's time to cull these birds if they have a disease. You don't want it spreading to the rest of them. So early detection is key. There are some vaccinations that you can use. We do not provide vaccinations. You'll have to get vaccinations on your own. These birds, as far as I know, do not have fowl pox vaccination. So just keep that in mind, that you may want to vaccinate for different diseases. But if you don't and something shows up, taking that animal out is the most humane, best thing for your project. Housing of the hens. So just a few things that you need to think about. Keep them high and dry. Keep them out of water. Water and poultry, for the most part, do not go along, especially with chickens. That's where a lot of disease is held. And when they get them on their feet and they take it to other places and they peck on the ground a lot. So we really want to keep things clean and very dry if you can possibly do that. Remember that ventilation is incredibly important. You got to have fresh air. So provide that, but don't provide a lot of excess drafts. So make sure that they're warm, but that clean, fresh air is getting to them, okay? You'll want some nest boxes for your birds to lay their eggs in. It's going to make it a lot easier for you. So you don't have to have that ready from day one, but as you go along in your project, you may want to make sure that those things are ready to go, especially when that time when they start to lay eggs, okay? So about week 16, you're going to want to make sure that nest boxes are in and ready to go. They always like perches. They always like to climb. So provide them with some things so they don't get bored. We want them to get up and move around. A nest box can be just about anything, okay? Just make sure that they're comfortable in it. It doesn't have to be a manufactured nest box, just something that they can go in and that's theirs, right? So selection for show birds. It says don't pick any of the ugly ones. I'll explain that a little more by just saying look for some deformities. A crooked toe is a deformity. A beak that might have the end cut off or it's crooked, that's a deformity. Anything that you wouldn't want to pass down to the future generations needs to be taken out, okay? So, you know, there may be some that are productive for you at the house, but I wouldn't bring those to the show, okay? If they're producing eggs and you're being able to sell them and bring in some income, by all means, keep them on board. But I wouldn't bring those to the show because you're going to be disqualified for any deformities, okay? Make sure that they're very uniform. So they need to be about the same size. They need to be about the same weight. Other things such as their legs need to be about the same color. You're looking for birds that almost look like you cloned them, okay? They need to be very similar. Preparing for the show, just make sure your birds are clean. You know, he gives you some other things here, such as clipping their toenails, using magic eraser on their scales, washing them with a mild soap or vinegar before you take them. So do make sure that they're clean. It's not as much of a problem this year as it has been in the past since it's a one-day show, but make sure you've got your pen ready with some shavings in them before you bring them there. Since it is a one-day show, that means that Friday afternoon you could clean them, get toenails clipped, that kind of thing. Bring them to the show on Saturday. You're ready to go, and you're going back home by that afternoon. Those are the ugly ones. So what to select for? Body capacity and handling quality. So in other words, you want a large size frame, okay, a good body capacity, that their appearance is mature. So they've got a good comb on them, the right feathers on them, right? So you need that. And then it talks about the spread of the pubic bone so that it's wide enough for an egg to come through and not a problem. If you need some help selecting those types of things, then just make sure that you holler at me or somebody else. We've got some really good resources in the community. And we've got a lot of kids that have done this before and they know what they're looking for. Just some places that you can continue to learn about poultry. So the 4-H goal is to always be learning more. So some of you are doing this for the first time and you're going to learn lots just from your first time experience. But those of you who have done this for a couple of years, you need to up the ante a little bit and do a little more research and figure out some things that you could change and hopefully make your project a little better. It's not all about the ribbons at the end. It's not about the money from being grand champion or reserve grand champion. It's about learning, and that's what 4-H is all about. So challenge yourself to learn a little bit more. Here's some projects that you might could look at and learn some from these resources. Challenge yourself to go outside of Poultry Chain and get some birds that you could take to all kinds of different shows. Just to know that there are youth programs out there. And again, we have some great local community sources that are all about kids and want to help them out. So I highly suggest that you look into, if poultry is a project you really like, look into joining maybe a local poultry group and begin to show a little more than just at county fair. So here you are for showmanship. I'll just say this, for our county, a lot of this may go out the window and it may be applicable in other shows, but pretty well you're going to put your bird in its pen and you're going to leave it. And the judge is going to go through and judge them and then let you know what the results are. So there's not a lot of handling for our show at the Pike County Fair. So entering state fair poultry show. So if you have something other than Poultry Chain, you are welcome to go through and enter those, and highly encouraged to do so. If you have Poultry Chain, the rules say that the Grand and Reserve are the ones that go to state fair. That's another reason for the one-day show. We now know who that is before the deadline. Typically, we're past the deadline in Pike County before we know who the Grand and Reserve were. So that's why our Grand and Reserve haven't been going all the time, because we don't always know who that is. But sometimes we can get in after the deadline and sometimes we can't. Now we will know who the winner is before the deadline for State Fair Poultry Chain Show, and those folks will be encouraged to go on to State Fair and represent our county. Here's some poultry resources in form of internet websites that you may want to go and visit and learn a little bit more. So as always, if you have questions, we'd really like to hear from you. Either me or Miss Christina can help you out. And so here's our phone number and my email. We also have a County 4-H Facebook page, and that's our main way of updating people on quick changes or those types of things. So highly encourage you to search for the Pike County 4-H Facebook page and like it and follow it. When it comes time to learn any rules, Remember that the Fair Board no longer prints paper catalogs, and all that is found at Pike County Fair and Rodeo. And I misspelled rodeo. Hopefully y'all can spell it better than I can. PikeCareFairandRodeo.com. And then if you need contact information for our office, you can always go to uaex.edu/Pike. So if you have any questions, contact us. We hope to see you and have lots of participants this year. Thank y'all.